lady of music, Beyonce.
Davis party is always a highlight of Grammy weekend. The anticipation for the big show on Sunday reached a fever pitch with just the mention of two names. We hear that Beyonce and Jay-Z are opening the show. What's your reaction to that?
About time.
Ooh, that's going to be hot. That's going to be fantastic.
I think that's awesome. You know, when you have two amazing artists that have great chemistry, you know, to open up, I think.
If you think the music industry is just about talent, hits, and fame, then you're already missing the real story. Because behind the glitter, behind the awards, behind the carefully curated images, there's a silent war happening, and it's not subtle anymore. It's a takeover. A calculated, strategic, almost surgical takeover. And at the center of it, the throne that Clive Davis left behind, a throne soaked in influence, fear, and whispers that never quite made it to daylight. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because while people are still unpacking the damage, still arguing over legacy versus destruction, Wendy Williams just dropped something that doesn't feel like commentary, it feels like a warning. Beyonce and Jay-Z aren't just thriving, they're positioning. Aggressively, quietly loud, loudly silent, pulling strings nobody admits exist. And the question isn't whether they want power, the question is how far they've already gone to secure it. But wait, before you even begin to understand that move, you have to understand the blueprint. Clive Davis wasn't just a music executive. He was the system, the gate, the filter, the final say. People didn't just respect him, they feared him. And yet, look at the pattern. Look at the names that keep surfacing like unfinished business. Phyllis Hyman, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, legends, voices that didn't need shaping yet somehow got molded, redirected, controlled in the whispers. They say it wasn't just about making stars, it was about reshaping them, smoothing edges, repackaging culture, making something raw, more palatable. And if you didn't play along, if you didn't bend, you didn't just lose opportunities, you disappeared from the narrative. Whitney Houston is the perfect example, and maybe that's why it feels so uncomfortable to talk about, because she was undeniable, lightning in human form, a voice that didn't need permission to exist, and yet even she wasn't immune to being guided, redirected, second-guessed. He didn't even want her in The Bodyguard at first. Think about that. The very project that became legendary almost didn't happen because someone thought it wasn't the right move. So what does that tell you? Control wasn't optional, it was embedded. And when people started noticing how other artists were being shaped to replicate that same formula, the illusion started cracking. Because lightning doesn't strike twice. And when it doesn't, what happens to the ones who tried to become it? Now layer that with something even darker. Because while the public saw power, success, and prestige, there were investigations happening behind closed doors. FBI involvement, payola accusations, heroin trafficking rumors, tax charges, being fired from Columbia Records. These aren't just footnotes, they're patterns. Patterns that suggest power wasn't just earned, it was protected, shielded, reinforced, and somehow, despite everything, he remained untouchable. That's not coincidence, that's structure. That's influence so deep it rewrites consequences.
The other part of that is we never talk about what Clive Davis did to Milli Vanilli, because those were young black men, but they looked a certain way and they were too pretty. But we have these big old fat black guys that can really sing, so we're going to have them sing, but we're going to put Milli Vanilli up. And then when it got discovered that the scam was happening, Clive Davis didn't lose a Grammy. Milli Vanilli did. Clive Davis wasn't shunned. Milli Vanilli was. Clive Davis went on and made Bad Boy, made J Records, gave Usher a record deal, built LaFace Records, did everything he wanted to do without any consequence or recompense to what he did to those young boys who were out front through no fault of their own, who were forced into that situation, and the fat black kids who were in the back singing.
And then comes the part that makes everything feel even more calculated. Because when Diddy's situation exploded, people weren't just looking at him, they were looking past him, following trails, connecting dots that weren't supposed to connect. Rumors started swirling that the raid wasn't just about stopping chaos, it was about containing it, cleaning up, protecting something bigger. And suddenly, Clive's name starts resurfacing again, not loudly but persistently, like a shadow that refuses to detach. Even Cassie's lawsuit, some say it didn't come out of nowhere, that there was backing, encouragement, strategy, and if that's what slipped out, what's still buried? Fear, that's the consistent theme. Not admiration, not respect. Fear, because going against him didn't just mean conflict, it meant collapse. Careers didn't survive that. One call, one one decision, one closed door, and everything you built could vanish. So people stayed quiet. They played along. They adapted, because survival in that system required obedience, or at least the illusion of it.
They claim he was one of the most evil producers in the game, right? Remember when TLC held him hostage in that bad contract? Oh, all right. Remember Whitney passed away the night before the Grammys? There's supposed to be his name around it. Remember they asked him about a whole bunch of stuff about P. Diddy? And he didn't say nothing? What does Clive spell backwards? Rest in peace.
But here's where it flips, because power like that doesn't just disappear, it gets inherited, transferred, rebuilt in new forms. And now, the industry is staring at that empty seat, wondering who's bold enough to claim it, or maybe who's already sitting in it without announcing it. And this is where things stop looking like ambition and start looking like orchestration. Because when people say everybody knows, they don't mean facts, they mean patterns. The kind of patterns that don't need confirmation, because they repeat too perfectly to ignore. Jay-Z's name doesn't just come up in conversations about music anymore, it slips into places it shouldn't even be. The Epstein files? That alone was enough to make people pause. Not because it proved anything outright, but because of what was being said behind closed doors. Admiration of his business model, whispers about influence, suggestions that power wasn't just earned but distributed, bought, maintained, and suddenly the narrative starts shifting. Is this about success or control disguised as success? And then Beyonce, always untouchable, always pristine. The image so flawless it almost feels engineered. But even perfection starts to crack under pressure. Allegations start surfacing wild, unbelievable, almost cinematic. Witchcraft, stealing from other artists, silencing competition before it even had a chance to breathe. And normally, those kinds of rumors would fade. But these didn't. They lingered. Because they connected to something bigger, the idea that no one rises that high without making sure no one else can reach them. And that's where it gets uncomfortable. Because if the throne is limited, then someone has to be pushed out to make space. Now think about timing. Think about how quickly things can fall apart. R. Kelly, gone, Diddy, collapsed almost overnight. 1 minute untouchable, the next minute exposed. And you really think Beyonce and Jay-Z aren't watching that? Studying it? Learning from it? Of course they are. Because if history has proven anything, it's that power doesn't protect you forever, it protects you until it doesn't. And that's why the desperation feels different now. It's not loud, it's strategic. It's quiet moves that scream louder than any headline. Look at the next generation. Look at how carefully it's being introduced. Blue ivy stepping into spaces that don't just symbolize fame, they symbolize access. Red carpets, the Met Gala, moments designed to signal continuity, legacy, control that doesn't end with them, but evolves through them. But even that didn't land the way they expected. Instead of admiration, people started questioning the styling, the messaging, the timing. She was ready, they said. Ready for what? That question didn't just linger, it echoed. Because readiness in that world doesn't just mean confidence, it means initiation. And then comes the move that feels almost like a test, the Target deal. On the surface, just business, just another partnership. But underneath, something else entirely. A signal, a challenge. The Black community had already drawn a line with Target, standing firm, refusing to fold. And then suddenly, Jay-Z steps in with an exclusive release, almost like he's asking a question without saying it out loud. Can he still move the masses? Can he still shift behavior with a single decision? Because if he can, that's not influence. That's control. That's proof of power that goes beyond music, beyond business, it becomes psychological. But here's the twist they didn't bite. The response wasn't what it used to be. The loyalty didn't activate on command. And that's when things start to feel shaky. Because power only works when people believe in it. And once that belief starts slipping, everything else follows. The illusion cracks. The control weakens. And suddenly, the throne doesn't look as secure as it once did. And maybe that's the real story nobody wants to say out loud. Not whether Beyonce and Jay-Z can take Clive's place, but whether that kind of place should even exist anymore. Because if history repeats itself, then we already know what comes next. More control, more silence, more artists caught in a system that rewards obedience and punishes resistance. And if this is how they move now, what happens when there's nothing above them to answer to? So now the question isn't just who takes the throne, it's what happens when someone finally does, and whether anyone is powerful enough to stop them before they do.